Hey guys, it's Piper. Welcome to Autopsy Reports. Today we have something a little different, but don't worry, we'll be right back to reviewing specific autopsies with the next video. Today, though, I've got an interesting interview with the county coroner in charge of the remains from Fox Hollow Farm in Indiana, the former resident of the accused serial killer Herb Baumeister. On his farm, over 10,000 bone fragments were discovered in 1996, and I can only imagine what an intense job the coroner would have getting all those fragments identified. And because the fragments are so small, they can't even readily determine how many victims they have. Herb Baumeister never saw his day in court. He fled to Canada and took his own life to avoid justice. I hope you enjoy this interview with Jeff Jellison, the county coroner in the county of Baumeister's residence. This interview is from late 2023, so some information, such as the number of identified victims, is not up to date. Earlier this year, in 2025, a 10th victim was identified. The remains of Daniel Thomas Halloran were also recovered, making him the 10th victim from the site. Without further ado, Jeff Jellison.
That if anyone has a relative, a next of kin that is missing, that may have become missing during the early to middle 90s, that they contact the Hamilton County Coroner's office and provide us with a DNA swab, and so we can use that to do comparisons between DNA that we have extracted from the bones.
Okay. Are you guys using genetic genealogy databases at all to try to identify any of the bones?
So we have the FBI has partnered with us on the investigation, and they have offered the forensic genealogy service as well.
Okay, great. And is that part of did you guys receive a grant to help
We
with
did not.
this?
The FBI received a grant called the SAKI, SAKI grant, and that is the nation's largest sexual assault cold case investigation grant.
Okay. And that is do you know how that will be used? I know that you're not part of the FBI investigation, so, but I didn't know if there were general things they were planning to use that grant for. I don't know enough to even take a guess.
Sure. The FBI is assisting us with our initiative. How they plan to spend that money, I can't answer.
Sure. Okay. How many individuals have you guys identified so far? And then how many are still left to be identified?
Sure. So initially, in the middle 90s, when this investigation first began, they were able to identify 8 individuals. But however, they were able to get 11 DNA profiles. So of the 11 DNA profiles, 8 were identified. To answer your question about how many do we expect to identify, we have 10,000 bones and bone fragments. I couldn't even begin to put a number on that.
Did you say 10,000?
Yes.
Wow. And so you have all those fragments, but have you guys already run DNA on those fragments? So that's not 10,000 individuals. That's fragments
10,000 bones and bone fragments, yes.
Okay. And have you guys already run DNA on those, or do you wait to some future time to do that?
No, so we are in the process now of doing that.
Okay. So that's how you'll match the DNA then to any possible family member who might have a missing.
Yes.
Okay.
With the comparisons and swabs.
Okay. And it's my understanding that most of the known victims are male. Are there any other characteristics that might help family members, kind of push them over that precipice of, okay, now, maybe this is somebody that my cousin might have known, or.
Right. So, to the best of our knowledge, let me rephrase that. Identified so far are all males.
And is there a certain age group?
21 and over.
Okay. And
from what we've identified so far.
Okay. So it doesn't seem that there was anything specific like, black males or white males or, younger males or older males. It was a wide age group, wide variety of individuals.
Of the 8 identified, 7 were Caucasian, 1 was Hispanic.
Okay. You said that there were 8 identified, and then you said 11 DNA profiles. So what about the other 3?
That's a good question.
Okay. So you have 3 DNA profiles that you don't have identified for an individual.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So, that is part of part of the whole initiative is who are these 3, and then who else do we have?
Okay. And then were they all of these individuals, the 8 that you have identified, are they all from the Indianapolis and surrounding areas, or were there other cities or states that they came from?
Central Indiana.
Okay. And let's just make sure. Did he have a particular ruse or way that he lured these individuals?
I don't know that because that's outside the focus of my investigation. My investigation is to identify the remains. How he went about doing that is something that law enforcement would have to answer.
Ah, okay. All right. And let's see. And then what barriers, aside from, I guess, the obvious, right, you have unidentified folks, are there other barriers that you've encountered in this case, financial or people not wanting to help or, anything like that? Or is it just mostly the time?
We did a media push to try to get our message out to people that if they had someone missing, to contact us and provide us with a DNA swab. That was a success. I mean, we've gotten probably 30 comparison samples.
Oh, great.
To use from. The barrier is this case is 26, 27 years old now.
Right.
So DNA obtained in the middle 90s doesn't talk to, for lack of a better way to say it, to DNA today. So you got to kind of start from the beginning. So those DNA results don't, are not real compatible with today's DNA technology.
Right.
26 years has passed. Technology has improved and advanced to the point now where old technology does not work with new technology. 26 years has passed, so someone's relative, loved one, whatever, may have moved on in life and no longer lives in the state, and difficult to find, on our end to get comparison samples from. I mean, of the 30 probably samples we've got, they came as far away as Alaska to Louisiana.
Wow.
All over the United States. So, time is the biggest hurdle that
yes,
that has gotten in our way.
And those folks who are out of state can still submit a sample to you. They don't have to come all this way, right? It's something okay that could be done locally.
We're mailing them a DNA kit with instructions, and then they return that to us.
And for folks who might be might have a reason to call you, and it may say they might be afraid to put their DNA in some sort of database. There are people like that out there. And what happens to their DNA? How is it used? Is it used for any other purpose, or just to help, hopefully, in identifying victims?
So that DNA swab that they provide us with, the results of that go into a missing persons database.
Okay, so it's entered into a database where if there's a missing individual, that's the database that's used to help match.
Right, and that's important. Maybe somebody had a person in their family that was missing, and they weren't a part of the Fox Hollow Farms incident, but yet remains are found in Kansas City or Los Angeles or wherever.
Right, right.
So you have the spin-off benefit of that.
That's true.
We just don't hit a wall when we stop and say, okay, this person, was not involved in the Fox Hollow incident, and then all of a sudden law enforcement finds a set of remains in Kansas City, and they do DNA on that. They pop it into the database, and everything starts, dinging and clicking, and all of a sudden we've got a match.
Right. But that's a great side benefit as well, if it doesn't work out here. I have one last question. If there are questions in regard to, you mentioned there were some questions you couldn't answer because it's part of the investigation that the FBI is doing. It's out of your scope. Is there a public information officer that has, or is there a website possibly, or a page that has general information about the investigation? For instance, the location of the farm and what kind of investigation was done previously, and anything related to that part of it.
So anything that has been done prior to my initiative has been investigative efforts through the Hamilton County Sheriff's Department. And my guess is that those records are investigative in nature and not public. I don't know. That's a question that someone would have to ask the Sheriff's Department.
Sure.
We do not have a website that is critical to the Fox Hollow Farms initiative. So we kind of vet everything through my office, and we just if somebody's missing, if you have somebody missing in your family, just come forward. I don't really care if it was from 1996 or from 2022.
Right.
I mean, let's get you in a database.
Right.
And because unless we have that, nobody's going to be identified.
Right. And I think that's important too. I don't think a lot of people, I didn't realize until this phone call that there was a missing person database that people could enter, their family members could submit their DNA to hopefully help, if there's unidentified remains, etc. So,
if somebody has a missing person in their family, they need to make sure that is reported to the police, because we have no data to start with, so there, even in 2023, with all the technology we have available to us, it still sometimes reverts back to old-fashioned police work where, we got to dig through case files or go knock on doors or whatever. And we can't do that. If we don't know that person's missing, we can't help.
Right.
So
right.
It's important that they contact, even if the person has been missing since the middle 90s. So
Right.
local law enforcement hub, report them, let them know about that. Let us get the data flowing amongst, everyone and that works in missing persons. And, then we'll move forward with DNA swabs and that kind of thing.
Right, right. And I think that's kind of my point, is that somebody might not realize, oh, well, remember Uncle Joe went missing. They have, but grandma's passed away already at this point,
Right.
so it's a cold case. And so people might not realize that they could do that, that's an option to
Yes.
them. So that's important. And that'll be something I'll put out there for folks to know and learn. Is there anything else that you think is important that I didn't ask you?
No, I mean, the important pieces is if you've got somebody missing, call me.
Okay, that's simple enough.
When, where, anything like that, I'll get you rolling in the right direction.
Okay.
So to just many, it's all about providing closure.
Yes.
And for the families, and it's difficult to provide closure when we don't have some place to start.
Mm-hmm.
So, we are all about providing families with closure, and I understand that, I've spoken with many families in this case, and some of them are just, sitting there waiting for their missing person to walk back through that front door after 26 years.
Right.
So, we really need to do the best that we can and, provide them with some answers and some closure.
That's right. Well, thank you. I really do appreciate it. You've been so kind and gracious to answer all these questions.
No problem.
Thank you so much.
All right.
And if there's anybody who would like to call in, that they should call with a family member that's missing, they should call the Hamilton County Coroner's office, or should they call the sheriff's office to get started? And
Either way.
Okay.
I mean, they can do that. I give you the phone number. If you publish that anywhere, that's perfect. It's 317-770-4415.
Perfect. And that's the Hamilton
I
County.
can get them rolling in whatever direction.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you being a resource for the community. Thank you so much, Mr. Jellison. You have a wonderful day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, what did you think? Interesting stuff. If you enjoy this content, consider subscribing. I'll be back soon with an autopsy to review and discuss. Until then, take care and remember, it's never a mannequin.